G'day guys, my name's Marky, and welcome back to another exciting episode of r/relationship advice. With that said, sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, let's get right into it. Cheers. Am I the arsehole here because I told my brother he couldn't afford to have kids? Hi, I just wanted to share my experience recently. I, 25 female, have always been financially independent, working hard to build my career. My brother, 30 male, has 2 kids, 2 male and 2 female, and he and his wife have been struggling financially for years, probably because of their spending habits and lifestyle. They constantly ask our family for help, and while my parents enable this behavior, I've always kept my distance. A few weeks ago, my brother asked me for $3,000 to cover some bills, claiming that it was for the kids. He didn't bother to elaborate on what expenses, so I told him that he and his wife should have thought about their financial situation before having children. He exploded, calling me selfish, heartless, and saying I don't understand because I don't have kids. This caused a huge fight in the family. My parents are upset with me for not supporting family, but I think it's ridiculous that I'm expected to bail out my brother every time he makes poor decisions. He chose to have kids knowing full well that they couldn't afford it. My mum says that I should help for the sake of my niece and nephew, but I think it's not my responsibility to clean up their mess. Now the family is divided, and I'm being painted as the bad guy for refusing to help innocent kids. Am I the arsehole? In the comments, Daisy Charm X says, "Nah, not the arsehole. You are not a personal ATM for your brother's bad choices. Helping the kids is one thing, but bailing him out every time? That's just enabling. He needs to fix his habits, not keep asking you for cash." It's always for the kids, when it's actually for the parents. It's emotional blackmail. And in case OP would like to help the children, of course she doesn't have to, she should ask to pay directly for the things they need. School fees, subscriptions to sport clubs, etc. Yeah, a little direct help in the form of direct payment of minor expenses might be fine, but I suspect that would not actually accord with what bro and sis-in-law actually want the money for. Not the arsehole for not giving them the money, but you might be the arsehole for how you expressed it. Without you knowing what the expenses were for, jumping straight to telling him that he shouldn't have had kids if he can't afford them is a bit of a jerk move. If you want to stay on the high ground and minimize alienating other family members, more neutral and less judgmental language would be better. What is the thing with your siblings and parents shaming the child with the most rational behavior? Stand your ground and don't enable this parasitic and victim behavior. You are not the arsehole at all. The dude didn't even elaborate on the expenses, and I would like to know which kid costs $3,000 in a month. He probably wants the new PS5. I get where you're coming from. It's tough to see families struggle, especially when they might not take responsibility for their choices. Helping them out isn't yours to take on, and honestly, it's kind of smart to set up some boundaries. Sometimes tough love is the only thing that makes them reconsider their financial decisions. Plus, people can be way too quick to lay the guilt trip on when it comes to family. Good luck navigating this one. I'm gonna go a little bit against the grain on this one and say it's a bit of a you're the arsehole here situation. Not too much, but I think that OP, you're demonstrating a bit of a lack of empathy here with a little bit of an overly judgmental attitude towards his financial struggles. So, it's not fair to want to enable irresponsible behavior. I get that. Your response was a bit harsh and dismissive, particularly with the children involved. From how you wrote this post, you didn't actually ask him what the details were about what he needed the money for. You just outright refused to help. And you're saying that all of this is purely just a consequence of poor choices rather than a legitimate family crisis that could have been going on. Instead of offering a constructive solution or showing at least a bit of compassion here, you chose to stand on your moral high ground and alienated yourself from your family and disregarded the well-being of your niece and nephew, who are innocent in this situation. So I think you have a little bit to think about here, don't you?
I just know so many people pause the video to respond to that.
And now onto the update. I wasn't expecting my last post to blow up like it did. Thanks to everyone who shared their thoughts, even the tough love. I thought things couldn't get worse with my family, but boy was I wrong. After I refused to give my brother $3,000, my parents stepped in without telling me and took out a personal loan to help him get back on his feet. When I found out, I was furious. I knew this would only enable him, but what really pissed me off was how he spent the money. Turns out, only half of it went to the bills. The rest, he bought a brand new TV, a sofa, all because the kid deserved something good growing up at home. When I confronted him, he had the audacity to say that I didn't understand because I don't have kids, and that his kids deserve to feel normal despite their financial struggles. He even called me bitter and jealous because I'm child-free, which is just ridiculous. What really blew my mind was that my mum backed him up saying, everyone needs a little luxury sometimes, and told me that I was being too harsh. At this point, I was livid. I laid it out for them. This isn't about luxury, this is about basic responsibility. If you can't afford to pay rent or utilities, maybe a new furniture or appliance shouldn't be your priority. My brother stormed out of the room, but then my dad stepped in saying, we are family, we take care of each other. And I replied, family doesn't mean that I have to bankroll his bad decisions. It didn't stop there. The next day, I started getting passive-aggressive texts from my brother's wife. She said I was a horrible aunt for refusing to help and accused me of turning my back on family. She even brought my job into it, saying I'm privileged because I have a stable, high income and that I owe it to my niece and nephew to help since they don't get to live the same lifestyle that I do. She ended the message with, how can you sleep at night knowing my kids are suffering? Suffering? They have more new gadgets than I do. In the comments, Seaworthinessjew8650 says, 1. Block your brother and his wife. 2. Tell your parents that if they can afford to give your brother money, they don't need your money and you will not later bail them out in the future. And 3. Talk to a lawyer and write a will to make sure that your money goes where you want it to go. To add on to this, in the US, it's not enough to leave people out of your will if you don't want anything to go to them. You have to name them in order to disinherit them, I forgot the legal word, otherwise they have the ability to contest the will after your death, and they could end up being awarded money, property, etc. from your estate. There was a John Grisham novel in which a rich dude had the reading of his will a month after his death, after promising his children they'd get to inherit something. They all went out and bought new cars, clothes, all kinds of wild stuff, and then it turned out that the will only paid the debts that existed the day prior to their notification that they were inheriting something. So all of their old debts were paid, and all their new ones were screwing them over. The whole book was about the fight over where the money was going. It wasn't just that. He had a will read out to his present kids that detailed how much they would get. After everybody left the room, he immediately created a new will that would only pay the debts up to that day, and left most to an unknown illegitimate child of his. This sounds like a classic case of blame the responsible one. It's not your responsibility to clean up after your brother's financial messes, and it's definitely not your job to fund his luxury purchases. Your brother and his wife need a reality check. Keep standing your ground, and don't let them guilt trip you into enabling their irresponsible behavior. And yes, I can sleep just fine knowing that I'm not footing the bill for their frivolous spending. Not the arsehole. How do you sleep? The response is, very well, since the kids didn't wake me up 4 times. Screw them. How do you sleep at night, forcing elderly people into debt just so that you can have a bigger flat screen? OP says, just some retrospecting, he was the supposed golden child. High academic grades, extroverted, likable, and a child foreseeably successful. He had a lot of expectations to meet, and naturally, he was coddled mostly growing up. When he graduated, he got a job, but his career never took off and stagnated. He chose a partner who was never good for him, as some would say. This situation is just so frustrating. I would like to offer my next submission for Debate Club. All rise. I postulate that, in fact, everyone in this situation is an arsehole. Now, OP's frustration is understandable, but their approach lacks compassion, and I think it just escalates the situation. Now, Instead of OP finding a middle ground, they expressed anger and disdain, which only fueled division within the family. Now, of course, I do agree that the brother and his wife are irresponsible for mismanaging the financial assistance they received, and prioritizing luxury over necessities, and then guilt-tripping OP for not contributing even more money. Now, their entitlement and deflection of responsibility, to me, that shows a refusal to acknowledge their poor choices. Meanwhile, OP's parents, I think they also bear responsibility for being enablers of their son's behavior in this situation. They took out a loan without transparency, and they defended the wasteful spending of the brother and wife as luxury, quote unquote. Now, everyone's refusal to communicate respectfully and address the deeper issues at hand, like financial responsibility and family support, I postulate, creates a toxic environment where blame and guilt took precedence over practical solutions. I rest my case. As always, thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. Our next post is by user Irene Mercury, titled, "I'm afraid that he won't like me because I'm chubby. I'm female 16, and I'll be going on a date with a guy that I've been talking to on Instagram, so it'll be the first time that we actually see each other in real life. I'm 1.6 meters tall and 66 kilograms. The thing is, I've lost 17 kilos in less than a year by going to the gym. But this guy doesn't know about my progress, and I hate it when I think about other people judging me without knowing my background. I think you can kinda tell how anxious I am. I just don't want to feel insecure when I'm with him. Also, it'll be the first time that I go on a date, so yeah." In the comments, JPlenty24 says, "Please don't go anywhere that isn't public. Do your parents know that you're going out with a guy that you met online? As far as your looks, I'm sure you're beautiful, and he must think so too if he wants to meet up with you. Remember, everyone has things they're insecure about. He probably is nervous too. Please make sure that someone knows where you are and share your location with them." Eat Trash Be Free says, 1. 66 kilos at 160 centimeters falls within the healthy weight range on the BMI scale. 2. If he doesn't like your body, that literally just means that one guy off Instagram doesn't like your body. He's not a national poll on your value. And 3. This will take time for you to understand and believe, but anyone who doesn't like your perfectly normal body can kick rocks. Much more importantly, meet in public, stay sober, only date people who make you feel happy and comfortable, and don't date people who put you down or make you feel insecure. Now, here's my submission as to why OP's the asshole in this situation. I'm kidding. I think you should take the advice of the comments here, OP. I don't think that you are chubby, and if he thinks that, then he's not worth dating, because why would you want to date someone that doesn't like you and puts you down? You're 16, there's plenty of time to date other people, to find better people out there for you if that turns out to be the case. This may just be one of those lessons that you have to learn the hard way and go through some bad stuff before you take it on board, I guess. Not the asshole. And now, onto the update. So it's been a few hours since I came home, and guys, it was amazing. We were talking all the time, and I didn't feel insecure once. The whole night we were talking and keeping eye contact. He paid for my bus tickets and my cocktail. Of course, I did some embarrassing things, such as dropping some of my drink on my legs, but it's okay. We laughed about it. Also, we didn't even hug, but it's okay because that's what I wanted, as it was my first time meeting him. I'm pretty sure we'll continue texting and possibly going out together. Thank you, guys. And for everyone commenting on my last post pretty negatively by saying things such as, "Wait until next year to go out with him so you have enough time to lose weight," you're unbelievable. I was expecting some motivation and not being insecure about my looks. Also, for the people that basically reminded me that I'm overweight, thanks, I didn't know. BMI is not as accurate as I have already lost 17 kilos, but have also been weightlifting for 2 years. All I have is bigger thighs and a tummy. That's all. Stop acting like I'm obese. In the comments, some people deserve some karma in their lives. Isn't the whole point that everyone deserves karma? People who do good things deserve good, and people who do bad deserve bad. Am I the only one concerned that she's 16 and her first date with a guy she met online involved him buying her a cocktail? Well, she mentions bus, so maybe not American. I took a girl out for her 15th in Germany. She had free drink tickets given to her by her teacher. Yes, teacher. It was a new discotheque that had just opened recently. Well, all's well that ends well in that situation, huh? Unfortunately, not every story on Reddit is about America. But that's okay. It sounds like the date went well, things are going smoothly, and this isn't someone with a gigantic age gap. I'm gonna count that as a win in my books. Thank you for the story, OP. Thank you for sharing. Our next post, bit of a content warning for sexual assault. So if that's not down your alley, look away now, or forever hold your peace. Posted by user ThrowRA went wrong, titled, "Me, 40 female, and my husband, 43 male, had a threesome with a man, and my husband left me alone with him, and it got scary. He thinks it's no big deal. How do I make him understand that it is? I'll try not to drag this on. So my husband and I have been together about 15 years. We have a good sex life, but it was starting to get a bit stale, so we had a talk about how to spice it up and settled on a couple of threesomes, one with another woman and one with another man. He said I pick the woman and he picks the man, and we agreed. He likes small, petite women, although I'm 5'8" and have big boobs, so I chose a small, dainty woman who he instantly loved. We had a great time, and even arranged for her to come back the following Saturday, and I'd even arranged a surprise for this end of the month for him with her and 2 of her friends to join us, so he'll have 4 women to himself. This will become relevant. Anyway, on the guy he chose for me, he knows that I'm not into bodybuilder types. He chose a 6'5", 20-stone giant of a man who had muscles on top of muscles. We started, and it was great fun. My husband finished first, and he was going to get a drink and go have a smoke, so I said okay, and me and this guy carried on. After about 20 minutes, he finished, and I realized my husband hadn't come back. I went downstairs, and his car was gone. The big guy followed me downstairs and asked where my husband was, and I said I didn't know. He grabbed me and said, "Well, that means we can go again," and started trying to kiss me. I said, "No, the moment's gone." He literally picked me up and carried me upstairs. I was like a rag doll to him. I said no again when we got to the top of the stairs, and he was laughing and telling me how much I loved it, and he knows I want more. This carried on for about 5 minutes, and I was scared. He was big and strong, and I knew I couldn't fight him off. He said my husband promised him a night of sex, and he'd only had an hour, so he wanted more. I said no, and I asked him to leave. He then said he would leave, but only if I performed a certain act first. I said no. This conversation went backwards and forwards for a few minutes, and he started walking towards me, and I got scared and agreed to something if we could do it downstairs, and he left afterwards. He said yes. Once he left, I tried calling my husband, but he wouldn't answer me. I rang his friends and family, but none of them answered. I sat up all night scared, and eventually he came home at 6 a.m. I went off on him and told him what had happened and asked where he went. He said he got some post-nut clarity and left before he ruined anything. I said some choice words about him and how he left me alone with a man who could snap me like a twig, and then I told him what the man made me do before he left. And he just said, "Well, you'd already done everything with him. Why not just do it again?" I saw red and stormed out myself. Later on, when I spoke to him, he said, "Why am I allowed to get insecure, but he's not?" I asked when did I get insecure, and he said the first time Sabrina came round, I left for 20 minutes. I left to wash my hair and get some more drinks for us, and even said, "You two carry on, I'll be back soon," and then joined back in once I came back. Plus, like I said, I'd done it again since, and then told him what I'd arranged for the end of the month. It's been a week, and he still doesn't think that he did anything wrong or left me in a dangerous position. I told him that I want to ring the police, and he said that's stupid. You can't ring the police on a man when we specifically invited him around for sex. He thinks I'm overreacting, but I think I'm underreacting. I feel like I want to leave him and report this guy, but I think I should give it some time to see if I calm down. In the comments, Derpy Drew McIntyre says, "Holy fuck, that's scary to read. You divorce him, that's how." And OP says, "I don't want to face it, but that thought has been getting louder and louder in my mind." What in the hell did I just read? You were alone with this guy, and he wouldn't take no for an answer? Thinking because your husband promised him a night of sex, it's okay to force you into it? It's like you're property for both of them. To me, it's like your husband pimped you out, and that guy is an R-word to me. No means effing no. The fact that you needed to agree to something before he left against your explicit will having said no is horrible, because you did it out of fear for that guy. And to me, that's more than sexual assault, it's the R-word. I would certainly get the police involved and dump your husband ASAP. This is just a total nightmare to read. And where can you even go from that with your husband if he's not even taking seriously what happened? You may need some counseling for that if you think it might help you grasp what happened and for clarity of what to do with it. Wishing you all the best and that you can heal from this. Yeah, what a difficult thing to read. OP, I really feel for you. The person who was supposed to protect you abandoned you, first physically and then mentally and emotionally. You need to seek a support person and seriously consider reporting this. It could happen to someone else, and this person also knows where you live. What if they come back and demand more from you? You're the victim, and please don't be gaslit into thinking otherwise. I think all of the husband's moves were intentional, starting with finding a guy that he knew that a wife wouldn't like. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy and OP's husband planned beforehand that he would leave and the other could do whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if there were cameras either recording. The husband is a piece of shit, and I am so horrified for OP. She was sexually assaulted, and she very much should go to the police, and also divorce. Your husband is an asshole, plain and simple. I would at the very minimum rethink this marriage at this point. OP says, I am. I hate the thought of it, but his apathy towards what happened is really making me dislike him. It sounds like your husband set you up. Seriously, the fact that he's pretending he was struggling with insecurity, yet unconcerned about the fact that you were assaulted is proof. Do go to the police. That man assaulted you. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there is any other way that you can frame this one other than your husband intentionally set you up to be assaulted. Whoever you married long ago is not the same person that you're married to now. The person that you are married to now does not want you alive. He intentionally put you in harm's way with someone that took advantage of you and could have gone further if they wanted to, because what the hell could you have done? Definitely have to report this one to the police. That is the bare minimum, I feel like. And now, on to the update. I still get messages from this now, over a month later, and I want to say that I really appreciate the support I get. It means a lot knowing so many strangers care. To answer a few questions from the original, threesomes were his idea. I suggested BDSM to spice things up. We had quite a few MFM threesomes with his friends in the first couple of years, which he never had a problem with or walked away from. After we had the 2 threesomes with Sabrina, I told him that if he didn't want to have an MFM, I was fine with that, and was more than happy having regular ones with Sabrina. He said no, he wants an MFM. Another question I got was why was it okay to leave him alone with her, but not for him to leave me alone with that man? I left him alone for 10 minutes while I went to wash something out of my hair in our ensuite bathroom with a woman who is 4'11". He drove away from our house and left me alone for 8 hours to fend for myself against a man who was 7 inches taller than me and I'd guess 10 stone heavier than me. Was he with Sabrina when he left me alone? No, he wasn't. He had no contact details for her. Did he plan to leave me alone, and was it a setup? I have no evidence of this, and it wasn't even something that I thought of before I made my last post, but I honestly believe now that it was a setup, and he told the guy that I'd be up for a night of sex. Another thing that came to me a few days after my post as well was that the other guy said that he had to be at work at 6 a.m. and would be tired on no sleep. That kinda confirms that he was planning on having no sleep due to a night of sex, and my husband came back at 6 a.m. when he knew the guy would definitely be gone. Have I been to the police? No, I can't be asked with the hassle. Did we have the surprise MFFF that I'd arranged for him? Hell no. On to the update. I left the day that I made the post. It dawned on me I needed to. I actually went to Sabrina's house for the night and got drunk with her, as she's the only person I could think of who he wouldn't know how to contact or find. I booked an Airbnb for the next week, miles away, and while there, my friend who was a letting agent sorted out a flat for me that I could move into pretty quickly. I transferred the deposit and the first month's rent over, and when I was back, I signed the contract and moved in, sleeping on an airbed and having nothing there for a few days. But now it's nice and cozy. I left my husband a note saying that I want a divorce and not to contact me. He hasn't really, apart from asking me essentials about the house. I've spoken to a lawyer, but haven't started anything yet, as paying out for my flat has left me a bit poor. But I will do in the next couple of weeks. I've seen him once drive past in the car while I was on the bus, and I'll be honest, I didn't feel anything. No love, no anger, no hatred, just emptiness. So that's the update. Nothing really salacious or interesting, I'm afraid, and I just want to thank everyone again for their support. In the comments, did you tell Sabrina what he did, and what did she think? OP says, yes, and she was disgusted. Did he sell you? Because the man said he promised me a night, I only got 1 hour. Weird. OP says, that's what I've been trying to find out, but I can't. Kind of sounds like it. What a piece of shit if he did. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I'm glad you left. Stay away from him. OP replies, I'll never ever go near him again. Does he still have any contact with Sabrina? OP says, he never had any way of contacting her. I did all the contact with her. The fact that the husband isn't trying to protest the divorce in any way tells me all of his denials were knowing lies. Not just deluding himself, but straight up knowing he was lying and exactly what happened to her. Honestly, so happy that you got out of there, OP, and weird that he's not doing anything to try and reconnect with you or get back at you. Very odd that he seems just as apathetic about this situation as you, because normally in situations like this, the ex-partner goes crazy and starts stalking you and harassing you. Just straight odd, but I'm glad that he's left you alone in this one, and it doesn't seem like he's contesting the divorce, so that makes things a bit easier for you as well. I hope it continues to be as peaceful as this, because that would be an absolute blessing. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and I'm very sorry that you had to go through all of that. I do hope that you continue to heal after all of this. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.